Two.
Hey, everybody, this is We Talk Politics. I'm Corey Tanisoff, joined by co host Gerald Mendoza. And tonight we're going to talk about the political climate in America today, as well as the current political race that is happening in America. So, at very first, we're going to lead off on the Democratic frontrunner Joe Biden, his vice president, who he's going to select. Gerald, would you mind taking over right here?
Yeah, of course. I've picked about five of the possible candidates that there seems to be consensus that these are all possible people that Vice President Biden would be willing to choose as his vice presidential pick. As we all know, he has committed himself to picking a female vice president. And very recently, just a few days ago, I believe it was Amy Klobuchar, who was one of the top candidates for that position, took herself out of the consideration for that job so that, in her words, a woman of color has the opportunity to fill the role. So here are my top candidates right now. I have in first place the most probable person to take this position is going to be Kamala Harris, senator from California. She seems to, be someone who readily agrees with the vice president on many things. And even though she ran against him during this very campaign, they still maintain a good relationship, as far as I can tell. And that I believe it'd be a good pick for him because this would tick off not only the box of having a woman, but also a woman of color in the position. And yeah, basically, ideologically, they're very similar. And so they would work very well with each other. Second.
Well, I remember. Yeah, no, sorry. I remember Kamala Harris and Joe Biden having various contentious moments at the debate, and I kind of find it interesting that he would be looking towards somebody who he thoroughly attacked for their work in the government as being his running mate.
I mean, yeah, but you can say that about any candidate in their vice presidential pick sometimes. I mean, just think about last time. I mean, think about when President Obama was running for his first term. Joe Biden was a candidate at the very beginning.
The number one thing, and again, don't get me wrong, I've been no fan of any president in about 40 years. But my number one thing is in the last year, Donald Trump, when he won, him and Vice President Mike Pence did not have any contention between each other. So what does it say about a vice president who has some contention versus one who doesn't? How does this play into any of their executive roles?
I wouldn't think that they would play into each other's roles once you're in office, because once you're in office, then you're already working with each other. But I can see where the apprehensions are, especially during the campaign, which is when you really need to look like a unified team who's ready to work with each other. So, and I get that, and we pointed this out earlier during the actual primary campaign with all the separate candidates. We noted that throughout the entirety of all the debates and through the campaign, every single candidate was throwing jabs at each other, trying to undercut each other's, previous work and all that. And as soon as it looked like Joe Biden was going to win and all these endorsements came from previous candidates, the first thing that people online jumped on, and I think somewhat rightfully so, is to point out how much they disagreed on the debate stage. And now that they're, shaking hands and trying to, make it seem like everything's fine and dandy. So no, you bring up a good point, and it is a good point that, this contention could end up hurting them in the short term during this election.
And also, I want to make note that Kamala Harris was the former United States Senator, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And which state did she run out of?
I believe it was California.
All right. And the next person on your list, sorry to interrupt.
No problem. I think this second person on his short list would have to be Elizabeth Warren, senator from, I believe, was it Massachusetts?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. This is a move to try to get more of the progressive voters on his side. For, as we can very clearly tell, Joe Biden seems more to be left of center than, or less left of center than some of the other popular candidates this campaign, including Elizabeth Warren herself, and also Bernie Sanders and maybe even Andrew Yang. But yeah, this would this would be purely just to try to get that progressive vote that ended up a lot of them either sitting out or voting for third party candidates last election cycle, which ended up uh, by way of the Electoral College electing Donald Trump as president. So I think they're trying to avoid that. This would be just to try to secure some confidence with a lot of these younger new voters that seem to be very who tend to lean a lot towards the progressive side of the Democratic caucus.
Well, I would disagree on you said that the third party voters had maybe, I'm sorry, could you restate that?
I think that last time, because Hillary Clinton was such a disliked candidate, not only by every single Democrat, I mean every single Republican in the world, but half of the Democratic Party who was really trying to pull for Bernie Sanders, who was the poster child for progressive politics.
Oh, correct. They did not wish to also pull for the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton.
Exactly.
So they're trying to get those people in. Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. But I think that there's we're going to tackle this a little bit later, but I think that there's a growing amount of population who do not wish for anybody who is working for or who's representing one of the two main parties. People are beginning to look for additional representation. They're looking for additional people who think that their values matter. The entire adage that a third party vote is a wasted vote, that's been and gone at this point.
Right.
And a lot of people are beginning to realize that it's propaganda. It's been that standing up since the Whig Party existed. It's been that standing up since the Federalists were a prominent party. And now people are starting to realize, wait, we have more than two options. And the people who go ahead.
If we look back at history, these are not the first two parties that existed at the beginning of the formation of this country.
They weren't not.
They didn't even exist. They didn't exist until about like the 1900s.
No, neither of the parties existed.
Right, exactly. So this, this could be the beginning of maybe.
If you would like a history lesson in elections and parties, please read your nearest history book, because then you'll be educated.
Exactly. Yeah. Just got to remember that, look, it has happened before. Don't think that a third party can become the party of the people.
A third party has and eventually will become a party of the people.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about this in a later spot, but in various times in the past, people have thought of, this couldn't possibly happen. We're only voting for two parties. And eventually come and find multiple parties pop out, and they drag more away than any of the main parties.
Exactly. I mean, if I can draw parallels to, if you look at the British Parliament, who has like about 10 significant parties that gain significant amount of voters. Like there's obviously two main parties. There's the Labour Party, the Tory Conservatives and the Labour Party. But back, not even that far back in time, the two parties were the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. And not only to
1994, I believe.
Yeah, it was like in the 80s and 90s, the Liberal Democrats were top dog in Parliament, and now look, they're basically not there. And the rising popularity of the Scottish National Party also has a lot to do with that. But like they seem to have a lot more fluidity with their political parties and a lot more options, which I think benefits a lot of people to find the right voice for them.
Without a doubt. I mean,
imagine having 10 different parties in Congress.
Well, everybody searches for a party that gets exactly their voice. And that's the very problem with elections, especially in a two-party system.
Right.
I've been known on the record and off to be a very staunch constitutionalist, and not in a way that defends the Constitution, but in a way that understands it and interprets it in a way that makes sense and that is relevant to today's terms. And in any way, there's no way in a humanity level that two parties can possibly understand exactly what you mean. If you want to be liberal in every single meaning of the way, well, that's not going to cover 75% of people. if you're going to be conservative in every single manner of your life, that's not going to cover 75% of people. You're missing out on 75% on each way. And it's almost unfair to limit people to a 50-50 chance in any
Right,
of
exactly. So yeah, so I mean, we'll sit here and look forward to maybe the shift in the tide of the political system in this country, and it could be really good for the people. But back to the VP list.
Yeah, back
Um,
to that. Back to the main event here.
Yeah, number 3 on what I believe to be Joe Biden's short list is the current mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, obviously rising to popularity through the recent situation that happened with the from the fallout of the death of George Floyd and the protests and the ensuing property damage and rioting that happened here and there in different spots. And she was very outspoken against that specific activity, though while still supporting people's right to protest, which is, their right. So she came onto the national spotlight with a very strong character and a very potent sense of presence, honestly, that has jump shot her, I believe, to like third place in Joe Biden's VP pick, and a very real possibility as a woman of color, as a woman with executive experience, as a woman as popular as she is in Atlanta. It could be a very good pairing between her and Joe Biden.
Well, I believe that it could, with an urban vice president who has significant reach over an urban population, has significant experience dealing with an urban population. I believe Atlanta might be well, I know for a fact Atlanta Airport is the number one most occupied airport in the world. So right. Atlanta itself must be the third or in the top 5 of busiest urban areas in the United States, aside from Los Angeles, New York City. And
it's also one of the biggest business-oriented cities in the country as well. Yeah,
I mean, without a doubt. She, in her address to the protest and looter problems, she said 50% of our businesses are Black-owned. And in that case, every 50% of Atlanta's businesses are Black-owned, which means that a significant portion of Atlanta is not only Black-owned, but Black-operated.
Exactly.
And that's the most significant portion of any of it, is if a business is 100% white-owned, but 99% of Black people operate it, then that means that 99% of those people who work there are Black and are making money off of the money made off of it. So for Atlanta, it's a little bit different, though, because of the way what is owned and what is operated. Atlanta, I've been there multiple times. Beautiful city. One of my favorites in the United States behind Los Angeles. But Atlanta has something that nothing else does, and it has hospitality. Atlanta has something that carries it doesn't matter where you're from. I'm a Marylander, born, blood, West Side Mercy Hospital, born, raised in Maryland all my life, lived in Pennsylvania for all of maybe 15 months. But right. Atlanta is one of the most hospitable areas I've ever been to. No waves there, nothing there that draws you except for the people. No good sports, nothing.
You go to I mean, they almost did with the Falcons, but that's besides the point.
No, it's the Falcons. 28-3, you lose that. Never count out touchdown Tom. That's all I'm saying. And Atlanta, she knows how to run a city. So I would put her on the hot seat for a good person to take over. She doesn't have any negative press behind her. She has only positive. She ran an incredible city, and she knows what to do.
And it's also one of those. It's also to be noted that she is also an African American woman who could fill the role, which seems to be more and more likely that that Joe Biden's going to lean towards that being a deciding factor, possibly a deciding factor for someone.
And we already mentioned Amy Klobuchar, who has gone down and has withdrawn herself from the Veep race because she wants to concede it to a woman that would be a woman of color.
Right, exactly. We have a comment from Sean A. on here. It says, yeah, what percent does a third party need in order to be included in a final debate? Example, Ross Perot. So how does a
Oh,
third party candidature work?
okay.
So
So
um,
I can answer this actually pretty easily. There's no number that can guide you onto how much of an election that it needs. Maybe, Gerald, you have a certain amount of.
I believe if you look at the organization who does the final presidential debates, not the ones that are primary because those are network run, but the actual uh, the society, for lack of a better word, that runs the presidential debates and manages them. I think last time it was because I believe Gary Johnson almost broke into the
Almost
cusp of
posted,
being in there.
correct.
I think it was 12% and he had 10, which is why he wasn't on stage. But I believe last time I checked was 12%. It could change. We don't know that. But last time I checked, it was 12% of popular vote polling averages, all that included.
But I want to remind these are polling numbers. These aren't quite election numbers or anything of the sort. These are people who they approach in any place. Again, polling numbers. Gerald, my favorite saying, you can answer this right now.
Yep.
What are there?
There's three kinds of lies: white lies, damn lies, and statistics.
There you go. Three kinds of lies. And I think that any kind of examining, cross or otherwise, can result in the same kind of things that you want. But as Gerald said, there 10% is the margin, or was last year. And anything else, if you don't make it, you don't make it. As far as I'm concerned, the Libertarian Party was eliminated from the Maryland federal electorate last year. Anybody who was registered Libertarian is now registered as Libertarian in parentheses other, because Libertarian failed to meet the state quota of votes met to retain the state party status. So that is something met, which would include, Sean, your comment on this matter.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Like we said, that a third party candidate can maybe have enough popularity to get on the debate stage and, maybe could flip things for, who knows, the betterment of the people. So always keep that option open. These are our options as people who are voting. So, always keep that in mind. Number 4 on the list, a little more apprehensive about this one, is Gretchen Whitmer, the current governor of Michigan.
Well, I have my own issue. Sorry, excuse me. I stumbled over my words. I was trying to talk too quickly. I have my own issues with whoever is the governor of Michigan, because for the past 10 years, there's something incredible that I have right here, and I'm going to do something that they cannot do. My carpet is right underneath this. I'm telling you. Do you know what I just poured out?
Water.
Do you know what Flint, Michigan still does not have?
Clean
water. If you expect me to say that any leader of Michigan deserves America's attention, you must think that I'm a crack addict. Because if somebody who says, hey, I've been governor of Michigan, I think I should be Veep, they are not completely efficient in their mental faculties. You need to focus, Miss Mayor or Governor. She's governor of Michigan, correct?
Right, governor of Michigan.
Governor of Michigan, you need to focus on actually providing one of the 3 things necessary to sustaining a living human is rest, food, and water. And one of those are gone. You don't have those. That's it. They're gone. You're not providing that to your people.
Yeah.
And you want to go towards the entire United States. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's completely fair.
Madam Governor, you do not deserve any kind of elected role. My personal opinion, Corey Diatanisov, you can write me on this fucking YouTube. Write me, and I will post back. Promise you. You do not deserve to be vice president of the United States if you cannot provide for your own people.
that's and like I said, that's why there was a lot of effort. This is just something I picked up from a number of websites, a number of different sources that were saying Gretchen Whitmer was on his short list. But like you said, then not only was that the apprehend, I hadn't, not that I hadn't considered, but that was not on the forefront of my memory, because right now it just seems like the state of Michigan is a complete disorder, because even from
Oh yeah, they did have
yeah,
the Minneapolis riots. Correct.
no, that's Minnesota, different state,
Minnesota.
different.
Minnesota. Oh. Well, nobody cares about Michigan.
But like no, the people seem to be turning against them. At least the majority, I would say, Republican population who lives there, were the people who were basically trying to force her to open up the state. So it just didn't look good. Like I don't know, I don't know strategically what that pick would do. I don't know. Like I feel like that would hurt his campaign more than help it.
Well, so the thing was, if we look at 2016, what did Mike Pence do?
I mean, he pulled Indiana, which had been voting right, which had been voting blue.
He gave flyover. The reason Donald J. Trump won in 2016 was flyover, because for the past 20 years, no, for the past, I'll say 30 years, since Ronald Reagan, flyover, even probably before that, if I can be honest, I can't remember the last time as a historian that flyover country was campaigned and remembered. So we see something like this, and Mike Pence was the perfect flyover guy in Indiana to look at. Now, if a Democratic nominee in Joe Biden, what's he looking for, Gerald?
I guess, yeah.
Is he looking for urban? Is he looking for flyover?
But he's okay. Based on polls right now, he's already projected to win Michigan.
I
know. I said based on polls.
In 2016, Hillary Clinton had a 90% chance to win the United States vote.
I get it.
So what's Biden looking for on an intellectual level? Biden, where's Biden from?
Isn't he from Delaware?
He's from the coast, so he's looking for a flyover.
I get that, but I don't think she's the best flyover candidate.
Then who's the next candidate on your list?
I don't know. But let me say, she's not the best flyover candidate because she's not even university by her own state.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, it was divisive in her election.
Exactly.
In everything that's going on in the state right now, there's not that representation of holding strong.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was a head, and then that was a head scratcher. But this number 5, and I'm putting her because she's new in this position, is Val Demings. Now, Val Demings is a representative from the United States. I believe she was part of the House managers team who went over to the Senate side during the impeachment process and during the impeachment trial of the president. She also used to be the police chief of Orlando, Florida.
Well, I really like this pick, and it's not any personal transgressions against or for police. I believe that this could really be a very good coming towards reuniting the nation. Of everything else, if you check the second to last episode, not the one that Gerald had with Mr. Grant Fox, but the one before that, I appeared in and we had a talk with Mr. Bond, and we talked about the role of police and the role of the human in America's society. I think that having a police in a position of power in the United States government could potentially unseat that divide that we currently see in today's America.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Right, but the other issue that I have is the flip side of that coin. How do you think that this could influence other police that see, oh, here's the vice president who used to be police. Well, now I can do whatever I want. How do we see that carried out?
I don't think that would happen. I think that could happen on a lower level, but on a national level, I don't think that the police culture, so to speak, would be more I guess you could say, chest out about their actions or more brash about what they decide to do. I think, honestly, right now, it seems to be that local governments and the people of local constituencies are holding police accountable for them, and are holding their feet to the fire when they need to be held to the fire. I don't think having a former police chief in office, in the second highest office in the land, is gonna give them, vigor to try to uh, act the way they want and not think that a consequence is going to come down on them, because everyone's holding their feet to the fire where they are. And I think it could work in that they feel that they're supported, because there's a lot of people calling for, a defunding of the police departments around the country, which um, personally I don't think is the absolute best way to go about fixing some of the problems that are going on in police departments around the country. But it could, I think, personally, strategically, get a policeman's vote onto the Democratic side, because it means that, hey, this is someone who used to be one of our sisters. This is someone who used to be one of our leaders, and we know that they could possibly lead us to be something good and put a good face for police. I don't think it would make them act out and be, like I said, inconsiderate of the situation around them. I think actually it could end up helping Joe Biden strategically by getting more Democratic voters more police to vote for the Democratic candidate.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think that for any case, if there are any semi-insubordinate police members, they might think my ass is grass and she is the mower, and might buckle down to thinking that they have to fall in line in order to make their union look better.
Exactly.
Because they're all dependent on that police union. So now, speaking of the police and the tensions that we have in the United States, I'm going to make a small jump to the NASCAR single African-American driver, Bubba Wallace, who this week he was found, not himself, in his garage. There was found a noose that was strung up inside of his garage in the fashion of a hanging. As if you do not know, as a viewer, Bubba Wallace is the singular African-American NASCAR driver currently competing in the Cup, and I believe in the past ever competing in the Cup. Gerald,
right.
What do you think of this?
Honestly, this is a response to the actions that were taken by NASCAR in response to Bubba Wallace's original statements against the Confederate flag, the Confederate battle standard.
As they had NASCAR had just banned
exactly
the Confederate battle, the South Carolinian battle flag from all of their racetracks.
Exactly, yeah, from their racetracks, properties, and events, which touched a nerve with many of the people who follow NASCAR, their fan base, and there are plenty of contentions and opinions about the Confederate battle flag and either the heritage and the history that comes along with it. But NASCAR made a decision, and in their initial statement, they said, this is a step forward towards making our sport more inclusive and more welcoming to everybody who's around, to anybody who wants to watch NASCAR. And I think it was a good move, personally. So now that this situation has happened, this is obviously, and it's a response to the decision by NASCAR to ban the Confederate battle standard flag. And if I can read part of their statement, part of NASCAR's statement about the situation, it said, late this afternoon, NASCAR was made aware that a noose was found in the garage stall of the 43 team, which is the Bubba Wallace's team. It said, we are angry and outraged and cannot state strongly enough how seriously we take this heinous act. We have launched an immediate investigation and will do everything we can to identify the person or persons responsible and eliminate them from the sport. So, and it continues, it says, as we have stated unequivocally, there is no place for racism in NASCAR, and this act only strengthens our resolve to make the sport open and welcoming to all. So they're definitely taking action, and because it was in the garage, it means it was someone who had access to Bubba Wallace's, someone who had access to the race group. So they knew it was actually an employee from one of the teams or of NASCAR. And they don't exactly know who yet, but they're looking into it. So yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable to say the least to see the response of the people to something, holding on to someone's personal piece of history that they see in the flag, and responding in that manner. Definitely, I agree with what NASCAR's response was to that. Is that they're taking it seriously, because it was.
If I may,
yeah, go ahead.
This is racist. Whatever happened, whatever occurred with a noose being displayed in the only black racer ever in the history of NASCAR, his garage, this is racist. And in the fact that the garages and the midcourt is specifically restricted to specific personnel, this is a racial issue. And it should not be hard to find out whoever orchestrated or whoever placed whoever put it in his place. It's ridiculous. I'm normally a person who is full of words, and I can describe any situation in any point however it needs to be put. But this at a certain place, I'm almost at a lack of words. There's a sport who he has done nothing in every other sport. The reason that baseball, the reason that football, the reason that basketball are so great are because of our black athletes. If you took away Randy Moss, you took away LeBron James, Michael Jordan, you took away Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, the best MLB athlete ever, Barry Bonds. You took him away from baseball. You took away Bob Gibson, the best single-season baseball pitcher ever. If you take away these people, your sport is nothing. And they want to take away the one black NASCAR driver. And my knuckles are pale right now because I am sitting here grasping at my fingers so hard not to scream at this. The fact that somebody would do this enrages me so much. And I can't physically put it into words. But sports, they go on. They have to. Bubba Wallace has said, I'm still going to race. I'm not going to stop. And you know what?
Exactly, yeah.
Bubba Wallace. Wallace is right there with my Jimmy Johnson, with my Jeff Gordon, in my favorites of all time. Because Bubba Wallace didn't sit down and say, okay, well, I'll play. He did it. Yeah. He did the damn thing.
Yeah, and like you said, he needs to be applauded for that, and NASCAR needs to make sure they make haste and figure out exactly what happened, and like they said, eliminate this person from NASCAR, whoever it was, or these people from NASCAR, whoever they were.
And without a doubt, more information should come into grasp during the week. And on Fridays, we have a sports talk show. It is called the We Talk Sports. You can find that on YouTube. If you look through We Talk Sports, we will have a link for our site in the description of this YouTube video. You can just check down there. But we'll have everything there on Friday as more news comes to fruition.
So yeah, definitely. That's yeah, it needed to be mentioned and you reset and yeah, NASCAR. I think NASCAR's response is appropriate, definitely, and there's so much more to be said about the relationship that people have with the Confederacy, and I think honestly we can probably put that to another time. But yeah, this situation specifically with Bubba Wallace, was racist, and I believe it's going to be dealt with appropriately by NASCAR, as it should be.
I don't see the person who put it there not getting fired, if not being charged with a hate crime.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, precisely. So if we can move on to the next thing on our docket, we are actually going to look at currently what the electoral map looks like and what it could look like in the end. So this is from our friends over at 270towin.com. 270, key to the White House.
Now, if you're not familiar, 270 is the amount of electoral votes that you need to win the White House. Electoral votes, each state has their own number of electoral votes relative to population. Each vote in your specific state contributes to an electoral vote for such party. Some parties are split, as in Maine and Nebraska, and they go toward specific parties. However, if you live in a one-party state, then the winning party takes all, and that goes towards whichever party the majority votes for.
Exactly. Yeah. So, this is currently, and this is from today, this is currently what the map looked like based on historical voting precedents by certain states, current polls and voting trends, voter registration, and a number of other determining factors to try to put together a probable electoral map. And I think that most of these are pretty good. If you see lighter shades of certain colors, so these deep red and deep blue, obviously they're determining that those are safe states for each candidate and each party to win. Likely states are a little bit lighter, like this shade over here in Montana and Utah, and this slightly deeper blue over here in Virginia, and one of these districts over here in Maine. So, and the very light ones means they're leaning red, which means either leaning red or leaning blue, which means it's probable that that's the direction that the state will go, but not impossible that it could switch. And the ones in gray are complete toss-ups, which means based on polling, based on recent history, based on the population that's there, the registered voters that are there, that these can truly go either way, and it's hard to predict that. And usually these gray ones are the states that will determine the presidency of the United States. So as you can see right now, the ones that are in gray are Arizona, the one district in Nebraska that is up for switch, Wisconsin with its 10 electoral votes, Pennsylvania seems to be a toss-up right now, as it was not expected to flip last election cycle to the Republican side, but it did. So they're considering it a toss-up state. North Carolina and Florida, the ever trustworthy state that will mess up your election map. So looking at this right now, Corey, looking at based on the projections that this website has, and it seems to be that altogether, including safe, likely, and leaning states, that right now, from what they can tell, the Democrats almost certainly have 248 electoral votes somewhat secure, and the Republicans have 204 to counter. So what's your first impression while looking at this map so far?
Yeah, so is there any way you can edit this map to give me kind of to entertain my curiosities?
Absolutely, yeah. I can click on them and I can choose which color they go to.
Give the reds Florida.
I'll put it as likely, yeah.
Give Pennsylvania to the Democrats. Okay, so then we've got that. I honestly can't see North Carolina going to Democrats. That's my personal vision. Give that to Republicans.
Okay, all right.
So then that puts 248, 246. Arizona, I don't put that as what's contested. Actually, put Florida as a dead red state, because the inclusivity of every single other state has pushed it away.
Okay, yeah.
Virginia, is that a whole blue or a half blue?
That's a half blue, not a quarter
Okay.
blue, but a half blue. Yeah.
Yeah. We have Wisconsin and Arizona. Make Nebraska full red because I don't see any other state going halvesies aside from Maine, and put Maine as full blue. I don't see them making any kind of progress.
I think
towards-
well that would be,
yeah.
but if you look back at 2016 map, Maine actually was split. Two of its, I think it has 4 electoral votes, and one of them or two of them can go whichever, and two of them are awarded with the state.
But I don't see the state splitting this year. The same thing as I just saw Nebraska taking all red. I see that, and I think in the area of it, I think Arizona is going to go red. They had Gary Johnson in 2008. So what it really comes down to, what the math comes down, is Wisconsin. That's all it is.
Wisconsin's going to be the one that determines the president. I think that's seems to be one of the consensus things. Yeah,
I believe that.
Say this.
Here, hold on. I 100% believe Florida is going to go red. In the last 8 years, more than ever, we have seen people, and there's a certain graph you can look at, a certain census that shows people who are leaving different states for different reasons. And Maryland, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania are leaving in droves because they want less taxes. Florida is a zero state income tax. Texas is a zero state income tax. And they are leaving towards these states because they look to get away. They're not looking for any sort of rights. They're looking to get away from these kind of justifications. These state income taxes, they want to keep their money. So I can honestly see this boiling down to just Wisconsin, and whoever wins goes 269, 269.
I mean, yeah, that is a very real possibility and we haven't seen it in a while. Or I don't think we've ever seen a full-time electoral college in its history.
We've never. I promise you that.
Considering that, do you know the process, how they break a tie in the electoral college?
Inform.
They send it to Congress, and what I mean is that the House of Representatives votes, but not as members, as states. So,
and how does that work for each state, Gerald?
Each state gets one vote in Congress. So you get together with the coalition of representatives from your state. So say California would have, I believe, 52 or 53 congressmen and women who have to come together and make a decision based on how they're going to cast their vote for the state. If you consider Alaska, they only have one representative, so he or she has to make their decision by themselves. But they each get one vote per state, and the one who wins is then elected president. The vice president is voted upon by the Senate, so it's a completely separate chamber for each position, which means there is a possibility that should a tie happen in the electoral college and should one party win the presidency, there could be the other party could win the Senate. And by the way, it's the incoming Senate or the incoming Congress that would vote.
It's not the incumbent.
Yeah, not the incumbent. The new Senate and the new Congress would vote for those positions.
Well, the issue that I have here is not, first and foremost, I'm a student of history. I'm a student of politics. I don't necessarily side with one side or another. In different viewpoints, I may side Republican. In different viewpoints, I may side Democrat. But in this one, I don't see anybody who had voted to vote for a different person. And as we saw in 2016, the numbers showed Hillary Clinton more than ever to win, and yet she didn't. So I see something coming above the horizon of an incumbent win. However, if it doesn't happen, then we'll be left with a scattered amount. Let's say that a Democrat does win this. How would that have an effect on the coattails of the House and Senate elections?
I'm sorry, hold on. Repeat that question.
Sorry. If a Democrat does win, how should that have an effect on the coattails for the Senate and House elections?
I'm not entirely sure.
Should more Democrats take House and Senate positions, or since they already have I believe the Democrats have a supermajority in the House. Is that correct?
Yes, they do.
And they do not in the Senate. The Senate is a Republican majority.
Yes.
So
currently the Senate is a Republican majority. Yeah.
Correct. So do you believe that? I don't believe that will ever switch for a Republican majority of the Senate, since each state gets 2. And the House is always going to have a supermajority, since there are those who have more elected representatives. But do you think that would have any impact on the electorate or the bill passing process if more Democrats or more Republicans were to have a hand at it?
Well, honestly, and I wanted to somewhat touch base on this in a later part, but the Senate has the possibility of flipping blue through a very narrow window, but a window nonetheless.
I would like that would be your toss-up states, such your Montana, Texas, Arizona, your North and South Carolina, Florida, Georgia.
Right. I think mainly Arizona, Montana, and a few others would I think would make difference if they would flip, because there's a lot of retiring. There's a number of retiring senators. There's a number of non-returning senators, incumbents who are decided not to run for re-election. So there could be a possibility of an entirely blue government, both executive and legislative, which is technically what you had at the beginning of 2016, though I think there would be less internal warfare going on within the Democratic caucus for bills to pass. I think they would actually be a lot more efficient than the Republicans were at the beginning of this president's administration in 2016. So, but let's say that the Senate remains red and the Democrats keep the supermajority in the House of Representatives. I mean, I think we'll go back to the level of production that President Obama had, if I'm being honest, which is a lot less than anybody would like, but still somehow getting certain things done. It's I think having the supermajority in the House would help, because it means that sometimes, if the Senate disagrees with something that the House said, they can override it and then send it to the president's desk, I believe, anyway, and have him sign a bill into law. So it'd be interesting to see, but I think obviously it'd be a lot more efficient if everybody was on the same side. But you never know. Based on the Senate map, on the Senate projections, and based on election betting odds, electionbettingodds.com, it says Senate control, the probability of a Democratic takeover of the Senate is going to be at 58.4% versus 41.5% that the Republicans retain. So it seems to be shifting, because I think it's the reverse of what happened last time in 2018 during the midterms, is that everyone thought the Senate was going to go blue, and then as you were going through getting closer to election day, it looked, maybe it's a little more iffy, maybe not, and then by the end, the Senate stayed red, but the Democrats took over the House of Representatives. I don't think the House of Representatives is in any danger of being taken over by the Republicans, but the Senate is still technically a toss-up. Now, if I can look back at this 270 map, honest, and reset everything, right? I mentioned to you in a text. I texted you earlier this week, or I think it was even last week.
Yep.
That Joe Biden honestly, he can win. Okay, let's put Florida red. Let's North Carolina, let's put it red, and Pennsylvania red. Even though it says on this website it's leaning blue, let's put it red. And so there's a possibility that and my personal opinion is that one district in Nebraska, maybe a bunch of students near the university, or
It will be 100%.
Students or city residents near Omaha, it could turn the tide for one of the electoral votes, which could potentially make all the difference this election cycle, honestly. And I believe Arizona has the possibility of turning blue, honestly.
Mhm.
And Wisconsin, I believe, has a possibility of turning blue as well. I believe we could see the margin be 270 to 268.
I don't believe either of those. I think Wisconsin's going red, and I think Arizona's going red. Pennsylvania is 100% going blue. And I think you agree with that Pennsylvania assertion.
I'll agree with the Pennsylvania assertion, and I'll give you Wisconsin, and I still think Arizona is much more of a toss-up than a lot of people see. But yeah, let's give them red.
Arizona's the biggest toss-up of anything. I think it either lies in Arizona or it lies in Wisconsin. There's nothing else. Florida's going red. Pennsylvania's going blue. That's the game.
Do you still believe that Maine is going to stay blue altogether? Like not even
100%.
one district?
100%. And I think we're saying red. 100%.
Right. Okay, so I can definitely see. Honestly, last time the only reason, and believe me, the only reason Hillary Clinton lost Utah last time is because there was a Mormon senator who was running on the ballot who took somehow 20% of the Democratic electorate. He was an independent away from Hillary Clinton. And
wait, who was that?
I don't remember. It was Evan McMullen.
Oh, McMullen. Yeah, he yanked her vote.
Honestly, that is what happened because she ended up with 23. He ended up with 20 something, like 20%, and then Donald Trump had the rest. And it was honestly the Mormons do vote a lot more conservative. And that seems to be the principal population of Utah. I'm not going to discount the colleges that are there and the students who live there that have a right to vote, but usually it's a lot more conservative and democratic. And even though it was close last time, like I think they called it a Zion vote, like a favorite son vote, is that someone who we personally know. Let's say I don't know, someone gets really popular in the state of Maryland and the whole state likes him. It could be potentially and he's on the ticket in the state of Maryland. Not anywhere else because he's not popular anywhere else, but he's in the say, I don't know. Oh, Martin O'Malley, mom.
Hey, first and foremost, I would like to put this public service announcement out there. Fuck Martin O'Malley. This might be a family-friendly show, but fuck Martin O'Malley. The worst person for Maryland and Baltimore in general. Martin O'Malley, fake Democrat, fake anything, hated human beings, was the worst. Putting that out there for Martin O'Malley.
Yeah. That was an interesting time in the state of Maryland.
The worst time.
But yeah, so like I said, the only thing I can, really consider this, the only conclusive thing I can come up with in terms of this electoral map is that there is no such thing as a landslide this election.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That's not going to happen. And this if I can show you another website that I have pulled up here, it's project jhkforecasts.com, which is a conglomerate website that compiles every single poll that is available and a number of other studies to put it together and come up with a forecast for the presidential election. You can see this here. This is their presidential forecast, technically based on the polling data actually, it shows that Arizona and Florida and Wisconsin are all going blue according to them. Now, I know how you feel about stats and polls, and honestly, I agree that that could happen. But this seems to be what they're forecasting, is that it's going to be a lot bigger win for Joe Biden than maybe we personally are expecting. It says the chance of an upset is about the odds of rolling a 6 on a die, based on their calculations. And, they could be wrong. They're projecting Joe Biden to win about 332.8 electoral votes with 41.5% of the popular vote. Surprisingly enough, they're showing that President Trump is going to have 44.3% of the vote, and 4.3% is going to go to another source.
Do you remember what last year's popular vote and average electoral vote suggested for our now president?
That it was going to get like 30% of the popular vote or something.
It said, if I remember correctly, about 30% of popular vote and like 160 electoral. People said it. Some reports, MSNBC was one of them, said this is going to be the biggest landslide since Reagan. And now we have that person as our POTUS.
I mean, yeah, I get
it. Our statistics. Anybody who voted for DJT first time around, I personally believe, are going to vote for him second time around. Some people are more comfortable with the economic status that we see today. And so they're going to vote for DJT again. They see, oh, well, our economy has been preserved for the last 4 years. Aside from the coronavirus coming in, our unemployment is at an all-time low. Our stocks are at an all-time high, and it's a seller's market. People are going to look at it. However, the numbers are going to say a different formula. Again, I need to repeat myself at this time. I am not a Democratic supporter. I'm not a Republican supporter. I am somebody who votes and who supports the best candidate on the ballot. Right now, I am putting out the pros of our current president.
Right, exactly.
People, if they're looking at economic factors, and they didn't before because they were doubtful, well, now they see somebody who is going to give them a return on their multi-million-dollar investment. So it's a little hard for me to say that our current president has a 30 or 20% win share for getting reelected. I just don't believe that.
I think what they're counting on is a lot of new younger voters.
They always
as well
have,
as well. I think there also might be polling people that are considering switching over. Right? Like, I am not convinced that 100% of the people who voted for Donald Trump are going to vote for him again. I'm not. And this is coming from someone who lives in a staunch conservative family with staunch conservative values that have almost never voted Democrat. But like, it's I think a lot of people in the thought process is that of a lot of people who did vote, who are considering changing their vote, is that they have seen, honestly, and I think this is going to hurt him a lot more than people are factoring in, is that his response to COVID-19 and his response to the current political climate in terms of the police debate that is going on in the country have been lackluster at best in a lot of people's eyes. A lot of things and decisions that he has made have reeked of just trying to save face so that he can be reelected instead of looking out for the betterment of the people of the United States. He tries to downplay this this virus as much as possible. Even this past Saturday, when he had his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where 6,000 people showed up.
Well, we're going to get into that more so after.
Right, but like where 6,000 people showed up, and he said to the crowd that was there, look, we need to slow down. I think it's time that we slow down testing for this virus. And, obviously, everyone's pointing that out. And a lot of his advisors were saying, well, that was tongue in cheek. That was more of a joke, more of just, reading the room and trying to get a cheer out of it. But nonetheless, it stands that the words of the president of the United States were that we need to slow down testing for this virus because it's annoying him. And he knows it's making him look bad, but that definitely isn't helping him. Things like that are factoring into people's minds when it comes to this president and this administration. And even though they might agree with him and they might like him because he's a Republican and certain people just aren't going to vote Democrat, which, that's their decision. I do believe that a lot of people are reconsidering the way they voted for him in 2016. And I do believe that there's a possibility of people switching their vote for the sake of, even though they might not like Democrats, they might like a little bit of a decent face in the office more so. Just last week when I was on with Grant, he said there seems to be a movement within the conservative community and within the Republican community, separate but significant in a way, is that there's a lot of people who are saying anyone but Trump. So I think that's what this website is factoring in here, that they believe that there's going to be 4.3% of the people who aren't going to vote for Trump who were expected to. By his campaign, like saying these are, the way he speaks, these are my people, these are the people who trust me, these are the people who are going to vote for me no matter what. There might be people who reconsider. So, it's something to consider. I personally still don't know which way I'm going with this election. But that's something for me to consider. And I'm not telling anyone else that they need to vote like me, but, based on the facts and based on the current, political climate in the country, based on different things, I think, honestly, I'm not ready to put money down on the table yet, but I think that Joe Biden could potentially be the next president of the United States.
Well, I've already put money down on the table. And I'm not going to tell which way I put it down or which way I didn't. But I've already put something down. However, I do thoroughly believe, I think people need to learn. I learned this when I was a young kid, courtesy of my father and my mother. Think for yourself. Don't listen to what anybody else has to say. Take it into your brain bank and incorporate it into your knowledge. But don't take it face value. And the number one thing that everybody has is they're taking it face value. I don't believe the president of the United States on everything he says. I don't believe him on half of the shit that he says. Pardon my French, but this is an American podcast, and I have the First Amendment protecting me to say what I want to say.
There you go.
I don't believe half the shit that he's saying. However, I do believe in results. And the worst things that he said would happen haven't happened. Whether it's banning illegals from the country has not happened. Stopping DACA from happening hasn't happened. It hasn't.
The Supreme Court just made sure of that.
Correct. Supreme Court just ruled it would not happen.
Right.
Half of the worst things that he could do have not happened. The only positive that we've gotten out of it is a stronger economy, disciplined by the other half of coronavirus coming through, which is the only downside of that improvement. So if we're looking at something that lasts, it's not his spirited nationalism or anything of the other sort, for lack of a better term. It's some results. Now, I'm not using this to excuse anything that the president has said. I'm not using this as somebody who is backing up what the president has said. I am saying this as a matter of fact. Because in 40 years, you're going to look at a history textbook and it's going to tell you exactly what happened. And it's going to tell you that something happened this way or something happened that way. But I'm telling you both ways. We had very negative things said by the president. We had very negative things said by the president himself. Negative things said about our indigenous Americans, such as my own Native Americans and Hispanic Americans, such as my co-host belongs to, Gerald Mendoza. We had
Yes, sir.
disgusting things said about Mexican and South Americans. However, in every single black part of history, in every single dark mark, there's some positivity. You need to see the light side in things. And I'm not using this as a positive towards the presidency. I am saying for a fact we have seen America improve on one front. And we
Its
need
economy.
to look its economy, and we need to look that there's a certain way. I'm not saying the way to improve is through our president of the United States. I am saying this is a result that we've seen. Do not take me as somebody who is looking at whoever is the leader in America and taking 100% of things at face value. I'm saying we have seen an improvement in the money making of our economy. We have seen an improvement of worker conditions. However, what we are not seeing is an improvement in social justice. What we are not seeing is an improvement in the lifestyle of the everyman.
Exactly. Right.
And in feeding that, I would like to look towards the alternative that people in 2016 used to say. Myself was not old enough. A lot of people I knew said, oh, if you vote for a third party, you are wasting your vote. They said, you vote Libertarian, you vote Green Party, that's a waste of a vote. Oh, a vote for Libertarian is a vote for Trump. No. I would, if you don't mind, Gerald, I'd like to take a simple 5-minute here.
Yep, go ahead.
If you say a vote for a third party is a vote for Trump, if you say a vote for nobody is a vote for Trump, no. A vote for a third party is a vote for a third party. A vote for nobody is a vote for nobody. If a vote for Trump would have won him a vote for Trump, well, I didn't give him that. I didn't give Hillary the vote that she didn't deserve as somebody who had lied to America on multiple bases. I didn't give Donald Trump a vote as somebody who has been found as a threat to America, as somebody who has been found as a threat to women across America. I didn't give him the vote. I gave my vote to somebody I believe in. I gave my vote to a third party. In 2016, I could not vote, but I campaigned for and I looked for people who gave a vote to Gary Johnson, somebody who I could believe in, somebody who gave a vote to people who believed in economic prosperity and freedom as well as personal freedom. As Austin Peterson, a libertarian nominee, said, I believe gay couples should be able to defend their marijuana fields with assault rifles. I believe in that. Whatever you think, you should go for. There should be no government restriction on something that should be legal. And Donald Trump is not following those. Hillary Clinton was not following those. Joe Biden is no better. Joe Biden is Obama 2.0, but with more baggage. Donald Trump is the same man that people voted for 4 years ago, but everything has come to light. Nothing can prove him as a better man, in my opinion. What we're looking forward to this year. Last year, we saw a massive increase of unaffiliated voters. What we need is a surge. We need that unaffiliated voter is a wasted vote. We need that to die. We need that to go down in flames. Because if you think that a vote towards somebody other than the two party is a wasted vote, then you're wrong. Because if somebody votes for Donald Trump and you vote for Hillary, then your vote for Hillary means nothing. If they vote for Donald Trump and you vote for Joe Biden, your vote means nothing, and so does theirs. But if I sit there on good conscience and vote for who I believe in, that's all that matters. Vote your conscience. Don't vote for who you think you should vote for. Right here is all that matters. Vote that.
Right. And like we had discussed about third parties, there are options. It takes a little further to look about them because they're not covered as much by the media, not right now at least, but there are other options. There is the Libertarian Party. There is the Green Party. There is a number of other
Party.
Constitutionalist Party, the what is it? The Legal Marijuana Now Party.
The,
I mean,
the
look
social party, anything.
right, for what you believe in, there are options. You just have to do a bit of your own research, which is what we encourage every single voter to do, because it is the most important thing, is that you are informed about what you believe and are informed about what the candidates in front of you have, not just the two most popular candidates, but the main candidates. But every political party candidate who's up on a ticket, because there's a lot more. And you can also, if you believe someone deserves to be a president, there's a spot to write in for a reason. If there's someone you believe should run the country and you don't see them on a ballot, you can write them in. That this system is built on you choosing who you believe is the best qualified to run this country. So don't discount those who aren't popular. Don't discount those who are not covered by the media 24/7. Just it's something to consider. So always, know your options the way that you should know your rights. That's probably the biggest thing I could get out of this, that you should know that you have more than two options for president of the United States. So always keep that in mind. And if we can move on towards the honestly, do you want to cover the Libertarian candidate who has been recently confirmed?
I wouldn't mind it. So the Libertarian Party has recently named Jo Jorgensen as their Libertarian nominee after the Libertarian Party convention, which happens once every 4 years. So she has a good history, Jo Jorgensen, and they're giving. Oh, sorry, I just had a hidden a blank. She's been an activist and a behind-the-scenes politician, and they have just given her vice partyship to Spike Cohen, who I personally am not a fan of Spike Cohen. He has also been another one of those behind-the-scenes guys, not working towards much. But Jo Jorgensen has been prevalent for both the Libertarian Party's national field and as their state field in each one. The Libertarian Party, if you care to learn more about them, you can simply Google Libertarian Party, or you can look up, I believe it is Libertarian. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I believe it's just. Sorry, go ahead.
You're looking for the campaign website?
It is lp.org is their party website. I'm not sure of Jo Jorgensen's individual website.
Oh, her website for the campaign is joj2020.com.
joj2020.com gives you her individual, or lp.org gives you the Libertarian Party's individual party platform and other information. However, that is just one of the parties. So there are others if you believe. And one of the commenters just said, I'm an unaffiliated voter. Please, each of you give your suggestions on how to vote. I believe both of us speak the same way when we say, vote your conscience. Vote whatever you believe in. I don't care if it's popular. I don't care if you vote for Derek Jeter. That will just show your displeasure.
That one's for PJ, by the way.
That's for PJ. If you want to check out our Let's Talk Sports podcast, if you just care about talking about whatever, vote something. That's all.
Yeah, don't be limited by what the popular conscience is telling you. Use your own conscience. Use your own thoughts to do what you want to do, to vote for who you want to vote for. So always consider your beliefs and consider those around you, how you think they could be affected, and make your personal decision for who you think should lead the country. I think that is everything. I mentioned that the Senate has the potential to flip while we were talking about the states, and I believe that the main Senate races that are the most likely to the toss-up states or the toss-up positions are Iowa, Senator from Iowa, Montana, Michigan, North Carolina, and Maine seem to have vacancies that could go either way and could throw the power of the Senate one way or another. So it's interesting. That's also something to keep an eye on in this campaign and in this election process, is to consider how the senatorial races are going around the country.
Yeah, I don't see the Senate flipping. We saw the entire 2016 election based off of the Senate. I mean, we saw equal votes for equal states. That was what won 45, his election. And I don't see this jumping out in the span of 4 years, especially when we also see 45 winning and not seeing a 46 until 2025. I would see in my beliefs 45 flipping to 46 until before, I should say, the Senate flips into a Democrat majority. Also, as one of our commenters just addressed, the Supreme Court just made a ruling this last week, correct, Cheryl, on that gay couples could not, or gay people cannot.
There is they can't be fired for their sake of being of their sexual orientation. Says it was an extension of, or it fits into the bracket of what was the Civil Rights Act and the protections that are given to those who are discriminated against as minorities in the country. I believe that's what the main reasoning was, and this was a 6-3 vote,
which is incredible. I mean, considering it's to anybody who is a Democrat in this country who believes purebred Democrats, a 6-3 when we're currently living in, I believe it is a 5-4 Republican Supreme Court, correct?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, it's 5-4. But it is one of Donald Trump's personal appointees. His first Supreme Court appointee was Neil Gorsuch, who ended up siding with his more liberal counterparts and colleagues. And I think that is significant because it proves that I think that he actually was the perfect choice for the Supreme Court. It's someone who can look beyond his own personal beliefs, someone who looks beyond the beliefs of those who put him in power and really is there to do his job, which is consider the protections that the Constitution gives to certain amounts of people, and to determine whether things either need to change as time changes or whether the Constitution doesn't allow for that. And I think he proved that he is a good Supreme Court justice with this decision.
Well, I 100% agree. I think the Supreme Court, I think Neil Gorsuch was a perfect appointee. And I agree with, personally, I think all of his guys have been good appointees, both Gorsuch and
Kavanaugh.
I think Kavanaugh is a fine Supreme Court justice with all of his baggage behind him, allegedly. But I think Gorsuch put this right on the money. I think Gorsuch is a perfect Supreme Court justice, putting the politics behind him, just going the way that it needs to go. And at this point, he reinforced what the law was, and he backed it back into the civil rights amendments and the civil rights laws. And he packaged it all into one and put it into perfect legal terms. You cannot fire an employee just because they are LGBT.
Right, exactly. And yeah, it makes sense. And I think this could go a long way towards quelling the mindset of many progressive voters that so long as a Republican is in office, the Supreme Court being at the age that they're in, a number of the members could possibly switch to something that will only lean towards conservative decision making, and this proves them wrong. And I think this is one time where they'd be happy to be proven wrong, is that the Supreme Court is functioning as designed, and it's functioning for the betterment of the American people, I believe. So it's a good sign that at least for us in this moment, this part of our government is running like a well-oiled machine, as well it should.
Well, I've always said since the beginning of my entire government history, whoever is president doesn't matter. None of it. The president does not matter. They're a figure holder. They're a puppet. They're a place. They do what that is. They elect whoever it is that they elect, but it's ultimately up to the legislative branch. There's a reason that the United States Constitution writes in checks and balances. You
Right.
have somebody up there, and it doesn't matter who is the president. There's only so much they can do. What matters is the sign of the times and the people who elect people to the Senate and the House of Representatives. And those people then veto the Supreme Court appointees, or those people vote in the senators or the House representatives who veto the executive orders on whichever point. But the president doesn't matter. And I've said this for years. The president does not matter. It matters who you appoint in state and local, because that mostly affects what you go. And then when it comes every 4 years, you best goddamn please that you appoint the right person into your own individual state legislatures, or national, I should say, legislatures and senatorial races.
As well as state legislatures and county legislatures and
Absolutely.
whatever the sort. Yeah, you need to pay attention to every single level of government that's ahead of you, or else, if they go unchecked, then that's when bad backhand things can happen. But you gotta be informed about who you're voting for on every level. And I think that's why the mantra that I still believe is true is that the power is with the people, because they can decide, look, this representative in Congress isn't doing what we want him to do. Let's vote him out. We'll put someone new. And they have every single right to do so. That's why the power is with the people. That's why it's a representative government. That's why there is a proportional sector of the government, chamber of the government, and then the other chamber is even, so that not only will the states with most people have the biggest say in one sense, but also the equality that is within the Senate also helps to, even things out. And I think it's a really good compromise that they did at the beginning of the formation of this country, because it was either one or the other, and they decided to compromise. And I think that's been one of the biggest benefits that this country's had in terms of its legislature.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. You look at everything that has happened within this country, and you need people to come to some kind of, for lack of a better word, some kind of compromise, some kind of responsibility, some kind of accountability, I should say, to come to. And you need something to join in on and say, here's something the people want. If we want to be reelected, we need to make something happen on this. And more often than not, it's happened. Somebody has come together and said, we need to make this do before we get our ass tossed in the brig and don't ever get a chance to vote on anything ever again.
Right, exactly. So it's an interesting situation that we're in, honestly. And I think our commenter for today has also mentioned something about the flag of Florida getting into the news recently, which I had not heard about yet. But in reading something from the Miami New Times, is that someone was calling it the most overtly, or was it the most overtly racist symbol in the United States. And I had, if I can pull up a picture of the flag of Florida, give me just a second. Yeah. Now I have done numerous reviews of the state flags in, just out of my own time and personal pleasure. I'll be honest, a lot of the state flags are trash. Florida is like kind of halfway there, but not really.
Maryland's the best.
Yeah, it is. Maryland is the best flag in the union. But yeah, this is the flag of Florida, if we can see it here. The seal of the flag of Florida has this symbol that, this woman in here, I'm not sure if she's Native American or supposed to be a Spaniard or colonialist. I'm not entirely sure, but
if I may,
yeah,
the word Florida, what does that mean in Spanish, Gerald?
Floral. like a floral pattern,
Right.
like or something that was decorated with flowers. It's
So the word
yeah,
flor means flower.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Florida is a Spanish originally in history. Florida was a Spanish colony, and
Yes, it was.
after a war in the I can't exactly remember which war. I think it might have been.
I don't think this. I think you're thinking about the
Yeah.
Spanish American War,
No,
but
no,
that
no,
was
no, no.
not it.
It came after the treaty of. It came after one of the treaties, and they gave up Florida to Great Britain, and they gave
Right.
it. And so the Florida flag does not uh, disenfranchise Native Americans. It doesn't, give props to the Confederacy. The flag of Florida shows their heritage of being a Spanish colony, as the word Florida doesn't come out of nowhere. Flor means flower in Spanish. That's what it is.
I believe some of the things about it is that the Florida the this X that's on here is that it by some people consider that its design is an homage to the Confederate battle standard, but
No, no, no. The Confederate battle standard came out about 6 years after the Stars and Bars, and this was established about 40 years before.
well, we know, and that's the point I'm trying to make here is that honestly, this symbol is actually a St. Andrew's cross is an homage to the St. Andrew's cross that was on the Spanish imperial flag.
Right.
And let me pull that up. The Spanish, because it was an empire, Spanish imperial flag. Uh, this was used to symbolize it, and you see the resemblance here, right? This is what the Spanish imperial flag was. Aside from these little, I think jets, you would call them in flag terminology, it's basically the same thing with the state seal on the front. Now, the original flag of Florida actually was, it was just the state seal on a white background, but the state decided to change it because it looked like a surrender flag, which a lot of states didn't like, which is fair change. And I honestly think that the it's based on what it said in the article is that the current flag dates back to antebellum Florida, when in 1868 the state decided to simply slap the official state seal on a white background and call it a day. That sufficed for decades until 1900, actually, when an amendment added a red saltire behind the seal. That's the terminology. The official story is that Floridians thought the all white number looked too much like the flag of surrender and lacked overall color. The change was led by Governor Francis P. Fleming, a former Confederate soldier, fierce segregationalist, Southern nationalist. Allman, the historical expert that wrote into this newspaper for this feature, says it maintains that the red cross was meant to evoke the blue cross of the Confederate battle flag, and meant intentionally to recall the Confederacy. However, the Miami Herald talked to state historians who say that they have found no direct evidence intentionally linking Florida's flag design to the Confederate flag, in that it was actually, in fact, an homage to the Spanish imperial flag, of which the state flew under for a number of years before becoming a state in the Union. So, okay, I get the confusion because of
not warranted.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's warranted. I think this is an homage to the Spanish Empire, which you can have your own opinions about. But
if you want to look back to Grenada and them pushing out all the Muslims from their territory in a homicidal fashion, then we can bounce back to Spain. But in America, past that point.
Yeah. But remember, just rule of thumb, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. But
nobody
Inquisition. Exactly. But yeah, this I guess this is part of the renewed movement to remove the Confederate battle standard, the Confederate battle flag from the public consciousness. Because if you consider the state flag of Mississippi has the Confederate battle flag in the corner of the flag, actually, and that can be problematic. I believe that's more warranted than the Florida state flag, which is obviously it has historical links to its imperialist father nation, which was Spain. So I think it's a different situation entirely. It's a bit of it doesn't help that the governor who enacted the amendment that changed the flag was a former supporter of the Confederacy. It doesn't help, but I don't believe that this is, this was the intention of the state legislature when they made that decision. So,
and no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap this up, I just want to go back, if you don't mind, if you saw that up, the race to 270. If you can pop that up.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before we bounce, in our Let's Talk Sports, we normally have a last little passage, which we each go through our opinion on this. But today, we're going to have our own thing. Now, Gerald, which do you think that you can definitely say the Republicans will take or the Democrats will take on this scale? Or which might flip?
Oh, which states?
Yes, correct.
Okay. My personal opinion is that Pennsylvania goes blue. And I'll put it in a likely column. Florida, I'll agree with you that it goes red. North Carolina, personally, I believe would go red as well. But Wisconsin is going to go blue, in my opinion. And I'll put it as a lean, not as likely or safe. And at that point, it becomes irrelevant whether Arizona goes red or blue, because with this combo, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, those 30 electoral votes, based on everything else, including Minnesota, Michigan, Nevada, California, New Hampshire, the districts in Maine and Virginia, Joe Biden would already be at 278. So that would be a 278 to 259 spread. I think this is possibly, and let's give Nebraska that red column. Yeah. Let's say I think this is my personal opinion for the most possible end result of this year's election. So, yeah, 278 for Joe Biden, 260 for Donald Trump. Again, no one wins by a landslide. It's going to be a razor-thin margin in many of these states, but I do believe Joe Biden will become the next president of the United States in 2021 on Inauguration Day. Now, for you, I'll reset this map for you, and then you can go ahead and give me your opinion.
All right. Florida is, you don't even have to pink it. It is 100% going to go red, without a doubt. North Carolina is going to go pink.
Gotcha.
Leave Pennsylvania. Ooh, well, it has to lean one way. I think that Pennsylvania is going to go. I mean, it's a toss-up. I'm got to think of can we see the Pennsylvania's districts on here?
Not on this map.
Can't zoom.
Not on this map. No, not on this.
Is it population based by state?
I'm sorry?
Is it population based by state? Like for whoever gets what delegates? Is it based on whole population or is it by? All right. Give Pennsylvania.
This one's based on whole population and polls.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pennsylvania gets blue.
Okay. So
and Wisconsin and Arizona get blue. Or sorry, get red. Sorry, red. My fault. And that's I can't tell you anything else. I don't know.
The Nebraska district.
Nebraska's probably going to go red. I don't see it going blue.
Okay, the one district or the whole state?
I mean, all of it. I don't see it going blue. It's going to be red. This state goes one way. It's Nebraska.
No, I mean this state has a split vote. Remember,
No, I know it's that in Maine. I
but
see
you
it.
believe that all of Nebraska is going to go red.
Yeah, I don't see it coming that way other than Lincoln. But if
Okay.
Lincoln is its one own thing, then yeah, they get one blue, but that still puts it as a tie. It's 269, 269. I don't see a way how it's coming out as a landslide or even a like plus 12, a plus 11 win. I'd put money any other way.
I think we're both putting money down that the electoral college is going to be a single-digit margin between the two.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah, that
I see it because yours said it would be like a 9-point win blue.
at 278 to yeah, something
But
else.
I 100% see Florida going red because if you look in everything, Virginia and Maryland have lost people to Florida. Every single high tax paying place has lost people to Florida because they don't want to pay taxes. And now they still don't want to pay that much in income taxes because they want to keep their money. So they're going to go red. I don't see Wisconsin going red just because of they have one urban area. Do they even? Green Bay, is that their one? It's not even urban. I don't see Green
But
Bay
it was
blue, and I absolutely don't see Arizona floating blue.
I think well, here's the thing. In Arizona the senator who the Senate race is definitely I think going to go blue because the former astronaut, I forgot his full name. His last name is Kelly, is running for the Senate spot versus one very disliked Republican senator who was only placed there because Senator McCain died and the Republican governor replaced him with another Republican. So, yeah. So I do believe Arizona senators will both be blue.
Oh, yeah. Scott Kelly might win that one, but I'm not, the senatorship is a lot different than an electorate.
Yeah, definitely.
I personally, however it turns out, I do believe that it might become a 270 to 268. I think that this will be a stay up until 3 a.m. because this is the election to watch.
Well, even in some of these states, you also got to remember if the margin is close enough, automatic recounts.
Yep.
So
Florida
this could be another year 2000 situation where things are recounted.
This is a Y2K situation that I am absolutely taking off the next day. I'll tell you that.
I think I was going to take off the next day to begin with. I'm taking off that day to help with the voter, help in the polls. I do enjoy doing that, but definitely those 50 hours.
Yeah, we're going to see how that accounts out because right here with a split Maine, a red Florida, Arizona, and Wisconsin, with a blue Pennsylvania and Michigan. Oh, with a blue Illinois, which should happen, and a red Ohio.
Yeah, I don't think Ohio's as close as I don't think Ohio's the focus state. This is one of the weirdest things is that Ohio's and Florida
red.
are not the
Ohio's going red. Period. I'm gonna look in here and see if I spy anything else. I think Virginia might be more of a fight than you think.
Well, that wasn't me. That was the website who put it.
I know. I still think it might be more of a fight than you think, and I think everything else is about correct. But we're gonna see a very, very close fight, and as it winds up, we're gonna see more of it.
I think I'll have to agree with you on Virginia, and let me take this off now, and we can finish off over here. On Virginia, because this really big thing with this distaste for Ralph Northam, and a lot of the state counties are not very fond of him for his record on gun rights and his record on other things like taxes, and Virginia has worse taxes than Maryland, honestly. Do you know how much a one-way trip on the Easy Pass Express lanes on 495 cost each way?
I do actually. It's like $6.
No, here, but no, in Virginia.
Yeah, it's like, wait, you're talking going to Raleigh or going to Nova?
Yeah, going around Nova.
It's like $7.
At one point, it was $40.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Well, you don't have to pay that in income tax in Virginia. I'll tell you that. But Northam is not a good.
He doesn't seem to be a very good governor.
No.
But yeah, so
Ralph.
definitely.
Ralph Northam is at it.
This is an election year of historical proportion. They thought 2016 was historical. No. This election year is going to be one for the all-time history books.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think that this could be the election that makes it or breaks it. I mean, here, however way you want to look at it, we've got stuff winding down, and it's coming to what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely it's gonna be an interesting ride, but hey, if you like politics, this is the year for you. That's all I'm gonna say.
Politics it definitely is.
Yeah. So, well, I think that just about wraps everything up for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Special shout out to Sean A for being our interacting with us and giving us a few extra topics to speak on.
Yep,
very much appreciated.
For any other interactions, we always have this live on YouTube every night that we every night that we cast this, it's live on YouTube. You can interact. Same time, same day. If not, it is on Tuesdays or on Sundays nights that we can't be reached, but you should get an alert. If you hit the subscribe and hit the notification bell, it will tell you on YouTube. But I've been Corey Tanisoff.
And I've been Gerald Mendoza.
And this is We Talk Politics signing off for the night.
Have a good night, everyone.